The concept of the Great Flood is ubiquitous throughout the ancient world, with over 200 cited claims in different periods and times. However, one need look no further for a pre-Christian source than the Epic of Gilgamesh, written in 2600 BC. This story talks of a great flood commanded by God, an ark with saved animals upon it, and even the release and return of a dove, all held in common with the biblical story among many other similarities.
The many similarities between the flood account in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the biblical account in Genesis point to a common source, but there are also significant differences. While Moses lived long after the flood and wrote Genesis around 1450 to 1410 BC, he was acting as the editor of much older sources. Unlike the Epic of Gilgamesh, God gave Noah specific instructions mentioning real historical landmarks in Genesis 10:19. Many cultures throughout history have repeated the concept of a great flood. In the Genesis account, God gives Noah specific dimensions for the building of the ark, and this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. According to David Collins, a naval architect, not even a 210-knot wind, 3 times hurricane force, could overcome this structure which God commanded Noah to build. Contrast this to the boat in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was a huge cube. The Epic of Gilgamesh reads, 10 dozen cubits the height of each of her walls, 10 dozen cubits each edge of the square deck. I laid out the shape of her sides and joined her together. I provided her with 6 decks, dividing her thus into 7 parts. It's difficult to imagine of a more ridiculous design for a ship. When examined with greater scrutiny, the worldwide flood legends, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, do not compare to the historical Genesis account. Far from disproving the biblical account of the flood, the parallels between the Epic of Gilgamesh and the flood account in Genesis, along with many other parallels, history, lend credibility to the fact that a massive flood occurred just as the Bible describes, and other cultures have preserved the fact that there was indeed a great flood, as the Bible says.